Hi everyone, welcome back to Move Wilder. My name is Hannah and today I'm going to take you through a 30-minute Pilates class specific for gymnasts and dancers. So, Joseph Pilates created Pilates. It was then known as Controlology, and when he moved this to New York and opened his New York studio, he worked with a lot of dancers and a lot of dance companies, and dance and gymnastics as well really stretch the joints. They sometimes also create imbalance around those joints, and what Pilates is really great at doing is building a really strong, deep, stabilizing core, which you can then move from. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at how we can build a strong core, how we can improve our posture and increase the flexibility through the joints. Let's get going. I'm now going to take you through standing alignment. So you're going to bring your feet together, heels come out, and then toes come out to meet them. From here, we're just going to take a little rock backwards and forwards, so just feeling where the weight is in your foot, and then slowly bringing yourself to a standstill where that weight is evenly balanced between your heel and your toe. Once you've come to here, we're going to think about moving the weight into the outside of the foot so that the knees track the toes, keeping them soft. Then just a gentle tuck and tilt to keep an eye on where you're placing that pelvis. And we're going to slowly make that movement slower until your tailbone is pointing down towards the floor, restacking those vertebrae, growing towards the ceiling. Next, we're going to make sure the arms are staying next to your side, so your shoulder blades are coming back and down. Just give those shoulders a little wiggle. And then next we're going to go through the pelvic floor, core and breathing. So as we inhale, we're going to feel that rib cage expand into the sides, back and front. The diaphragm moves down and so does the pelvic floor. As you exhale, you're thinking about pulling your ribs to hips and pulling in the pelvic floor. So we're thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Again, we're going to inhale, feel that rib cage expand, and then exhale, draw those ribs in, engage that pelvic floor, thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Again, inhale, release, and exhale, engage. Inhale, release, and exhale, engage. Couple more breaths here with me. There's quite a lot of information to take in with the breathing, core and pelvic floor and how it works together, so don't panic if you can't nail this today. This is something that we're going to work on as we move through the course. Just keep thinking, I need to be breathing as I'm exercising, and keep thinking about pulling in those pelvic floor and core muscles at the same time. So pelvic floor, sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Core, we're thinking rib to hip to hip, belly button to spine. And now we're ready for our workout. Now going to take you through a roll down. So this is one of our 34 classical Pilates exercises, and we're going to add in press ups as well. So coming to the end of your mat, feet hip distance apart, pelvis underneath you, taking a nice inhale at the top, expanding that rib cage. Exhale, engaging your pelvic floor and core, gently bringing your chin to chest, and we're going to roll down through each vertebrae one at a time. At the bottom, keeping your heels on the floor, walking forward into your high press up position. Then you can bring your knees to the floor into your 3/4 press up if that is better for you, or you can maintain that full press up position and do your press ups from there if that is better for you. Somewhere between 2 and 6 press ups per roll down, please. Then walking yourself back into the bottom of your roll down, taking an inhale, and on your next exhale, gently restacking those vertebrae back to standing. This is a really nice mobility exercise for your spine, so keep it nice and slow and controlled. It should take somewhere between 8 and 10 seconds to roll down to the floor. Don't rush this part. Maintaining your core connection as you do your press ups, breathing however works for you whilst you are doing your press ups. When you get to the bottom of your roll down, pushing down into those toes so you really can bring your pelvis up over your heels and not so it's behind you. So your body should come back up and be in a really balanced, neutral spine position. If you need to at any point reduce the amount of press-ups or go to a 3/4 press-up, if you're doing a full press-up, that's absolutely fine. Just work in the range that you feel is right for you today, and then you can always up that and increase that as the weeks go on. In your press-ups, you can always come onto a fist if that's more comfortable for the wrist. And as you roll back up, we're going to push down into the toes so you bring your pelvis forward, then your pelvis and your heels align as you come up. We're slowly rolling through vertebrae by vertebrae until you're standing up nice and tall, eyes on the horizon, taking the inhale at the top, and then exhale, pulling your ribs down towards your hips, engaging your core and pelvic floor. So with pelvic floor, we're thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone, slowly rolling through each vertebrae again and walking out into your press up. With your full press up, making sure that you're not letting your pelvis dip. So if you feel like your back is arching and you're dipping in the middle, then go back to your 3/4 press up. This is going to protect your back. Keeping those knees soft as you roll up, making sure you're not pushing down. Make sure you're not pushing the kneecaps backwards and locking out the knees. This is a great mobility exercise for your spine. It's a really good opportunity for you to work on that connection between the core, pelvic floor and your breathing. If you need to adjust your press-ups at any point, you can do. Keeping the elbows going out from your sides, head in line with the rest of your spine. Once you finish your set, coming back into your rest pose. Swan dive with the band is a great exercise for building strength in your upper back. So we're going to come down onto our front, going to bring your arms into your swan dive position with a gentle bend in the elbow and bring the band out in front of you. You're in control of how hard you work, so the less band you have in the middle of your hands, the harder you're going to make it. Going to lift your body up and then raise the arms to meet your upper body and then pull the band out to the side. We're going to hold this for somewhere between 3 and 5 seconds and then release the arms back to the middle with the upper body staying off the ground. You can do this once or you can do it twice if you like. You can do it a couple more times if you feel you really would like to try and really focus on that upper back today. So just hit pause and then join us when you have finished your arm reps. Keeping that lower body switched off, so keeping those toes turned in, trying to keep the feet on the floor, make sure the feet aren't raising up off the floor. Shouldn't feel any tension in the lower back. You might feel a little bit of pulling, but there should be no pinching. Keeping your eye line down to the floor, so make sure you're not lifting your chin. If you can see what's in front of you, you're looking in the wrong direction. You should be looking down at the mat. So I'm just going to show you from the top now, so you can see I'm pulling the band out, fully extending through the arm, and then slowly bringing my arms back to the middle. Lower body stays switched off, eye line down to the floor. So I'm keeping a nice long spine as I pull the band out, holding again for between 3 and 5 seconds, and then releasing that back off. And once you're finished, coming into child's pose, and we're just going to hold that for 20 seconds. Now we're going to do a seated row. So you're going to come to sitting, legs straight out in front of you, and pop the band around the top of your foot. Then you're just going to hold onto the band, keeping your upper body upright, head looking forward, and you're just going to pull the band back so your elbows just come slightly past your body. Hold for a couple of seconds and then release back off. If you need to make this harder, you can pull the band in so the band is a little bit more tense. If you need to make it easier, you can just release some band out. The other way you can make this harder is once you've pulled it towards you, you could just hold it there for a couple more seconds before you release, keeping yourself nice and tall. The seated row is a really good exercise for building strength in the upper back, which is going to help to improve your posture. We're working several back muscles here. So we're working the lats, or the latissimus dorsi, which is in the middle of the back, the rhomboids, which are between your shoulder blades, the trapezius, which is the diamond-like muscle between your neck, shoulders and upper back, and the biceps, so the front of the arm. And then once you've finished, coming back into your rest pose. We're now going to go through a shoulder bridge with the band. So you're going to tie the band about a hand's width away from your knee, and you're tying it in a bow. If you've got a loop band, you can use this instead. Once you've tied it, we're going to come to laying on the mat, making sure that your spine is in a line, so pelvis is neutral, little gap under that low back. Arms are just resting on the floor, palm up if you think you're going to push your hands down into the mat. Going to take an inhale and then exhale. We're going to gently roll through the spine into your bridge position. Once you're at the top, your knee, hip and shoulder are in a line, and then we're going to push out into the band. Hold it there briefly and then release it back to the middle. Anywhere between 2 and 6 pushes out into the band per bridge. So we're going to then roll down to the bottom, get back into our neutral spine, and then again on your inhale, going to prepare, exhale, we're going to roll up into that bridge, and again push the knees out into the band. As you push your knees out into the band, you might find that the foot rolls out a little bit. That's okay. Try and keep your toes planted on the floor. As you roll up and down, thinking about your vertebrae moving as individuals. So we're placing each vertebrae down on the mat nice and slowly, and then as we come back up into our bridge, we're going to pick them up one at a time. So you're really mobilizing through that whole spine. This is a great exercise for building strength in your hamstrings and glutes. Keep pushing down into those toes. As you push out into the band, we're building strength in the outside of the leg. Keeping your pelvis lifted as you push out. If you're finding that you're dropping down a little bit lower, you need to really think about using your glutes to bring yourself higher. Once you've finished your set, you're going to take a full body stretch and then come back up to sitting. We're now going to go through shoulder bridge with a ball squeeze. So we're going to come down to laying on the mat. Going to bring the ball up so it's between your knees. Feet, knees and hips are hip distance apart and arms are just gently resting on the floor, palm facing up. We're going to take an inhale to prepare, and then exhale, we're going to slowly roll up vertebrae by vertebrae until your weight is evenly distributed between your shoulders and your feet. Your pelvis is lifted so your knee, hip and shoulder are in a line and you're engaging your core, so you're pulling your ribs down towards your hips together. We're squeezing into the ball for a count of 8 seconds, and then we're releasing back to the ground. Once you're back onto the ground, rolling back into your neutral spine, inhaling there and then exhaling, rolling back up, pushing down into the feet again, breathing however works for you as you squeeze the ball for 8 seconds. And then taking an inhale and slowly rolling back to the mat. Shoulder bridge is a really good exercise for building strength in your hamstrings and your glutes, areas that predominantly are quite weak in a lot of us because we spend a lot of time sitting, and so those muscles get stretched and weak because of this. The ball squeeze is adding in work to the inner thigh. Keep pushing down into your toes as you roll up and down so you activate through those hamstrings. The weight stays in your shoulders, not in your neck throughout the move. And when you're finished, removing the ball, taking a full body stretch, and then coming back up to sitting. This exercise is hip flexor strength. So when I come to sitting on your sit bones, bring your legs to one side of an object, and then we're going to slowly lift and lower the legs over the object. Now I'm using a kettlebell here, but it doesn't have to be a piece of gym equipment. It could be a football, it could be a water bottle. It really doesn't matter what it is. The more important piece of information is what is happening to your back as you lift that leg over. You shouldn't be leaning back. If you are, I want you to try and sit up nice and tall. Imagine someone's got a piece of string from the top of your head and they're pulling you up towards the ceiling. Keeping that core switch on, so we're thinking rib to hip connection here. This is a great exercise for building strength in the hip flexors, and weakness in the hip flexors can cause back pain, hip pain, and also tension when you're doing exercises where you need to extend through the hip flexors. So what we're going to do here is build strength in those hip flexors, which is going to allow for better stability and muscle balance around the pelvis. Once you have done your set, we're going to come into our rest pose. I'm now going to take you through a Superman curl up. So we're going to come into our box position, wrists under your shoulders, knees under your hips. You can always roll your mat up if you need a little bit more padding under them. And then we're going to stretch the opposite arm and leg out from the midline. Hold it there for an inhale or a count of 3. And then we're going to curl up into the middle, hugging your knee and your arm together. Holding that for an inhale and then exhale, stretching that arm and leg out. Every time you curl into the middle, taking your head with the rest of your spine, so you're curling yourself into a tiny ball. And we're going to hold for an inhale as we stretch that arm and leg out, trying to make them longer every time you reach. And we're going to do up to 10 on one side, and then we're going to swap to the other side. If you needed to, you could alternate, so you could do 5 on one side, 5 on the other, and then go back and do the other set, so that you just give yourself a little bit of a break. This is a great move for improving your posture, so it's going to work into the posterior chain, so the muscles in the backside of the body, help you stand taller. Really using your core as you stretch that arm and leg out. Really pull those ribs down towards your hips. And now changing to the other side. So again, box position. Check that your wrists haven't moved forward, so make sure they're under your shoulders. And then we're stretching that opposite arm and leg out. Holding there and then curling into the middle. Trying to exhale as you move and inhale to pause. So you're using the breathing to help time the movement, keep you in a nice rhythm, and also stop you from going too fast. It also gives you a little break. So when you're inhaling, you're releasing that core off slightly so that you can take that wide thoracic breath. And then as you exhale and move, you're stabilizing properly by bracing that core. And we're nearly at the end of our set. Keep going, you're doing really well. Keep stretching that arm and leg out. Try and make yourself longer. And once you've done both sides, we're going to come back into our rest pose. Next, we're going to go through dead bug. This is one of my favorite core exercises. So we're going to come to laying on our back, get your pelvis into neutral, so your spine is in that neutral central position. Feet are in line with your hips. Bring your arms up into the air and then both legs into tabletop. We're going to take an inhale in the middle and then exhale. We're going to stretch the opposite arm and leg out away from the midline. Holding it there for an inhale and then exhale, engage your core and pelvic floor. Bring that arm and leg back in. Swapping to the other side, really stretch that leg out. The lower you take the leg, the harder it's going to get. So take it to where you can hold it. When that arm and leg are extended out, there should be no doming in your belly and no arching of your back. Keep pulling your ribs down towards your hips. Use your core to stabilize that movement. If you're finding it tricky, just bring the leg a little bit higher. So point your toes to the ceiling instead of taking them out towards the end of your mat. If you're finding it difficult on your shoulders to take your arms out behind your head, then just take your arm so that it's kind of straight out to the side instead. And once you're finished, taking a full body stretch, releasing that tension in your abs, and then come back up to sitting. Hope you enjoyed that one. Our next exercise is going to challenge your core, your legs, and your coordination. So we're going to bring the band and tie the band in a bow just above the knees. You need to have a little bit of slack in the band, so maybe move your feet to hip distance and then tie the band. You need to be able to move the band. Then we're going to come down onto the mat. You can use a weight, so a dumbbell somewhere around 2 kilos, or you can use the Pilates ball if you prefer. Going to lie with the arms stretched out from your sides, and then we're going to stretch the legs out in the band, and we're going to bring the arms into the middle. So as the arms come in, the legs go out, pushing out into the band. So we're building strength in the side of the leg here. If you find you need to either make it a bit easier, you can let some band out so you've got more room to push out into the band, or if it's too easy, you can tie the band a little bit tighter. This is a great exercise for challenging your coordination and also your core. We're also moving the legs and arms as well, so it's a full body, lots of joints involved exercise, which is the greatest way of challenging your core and building strength in those core muscles, which are the key stabilizing muscles for all the movements you do in your daily life. Once you're finished, we're going to take a full body stretch, and then you can come back up to sitting. I'm now going to take you through a myofascial release tennis ball roll on the bottom of your foot. So I'm using a spiky massage ball, but you could use a tennis ball or even a lacrosse ball. Just going to roll the ball for 15 seconds under your toes and the ball of your foot. Then you're going to move it back into the middle of your foot for another 15 seconds from side to side. And then finally, you're going to just push the foot forward and slide it back along that ball. And we're going to do that for about 30 seconds, but do it for a period of time that feels right for you. So no more than a minute, but somewhere between like 20 seconds and 60 seconds would be fine. And then we'll swap to the other foot. And this is just going to help to rejuvenate the arches of your feet and get your feet working really well, get them sitting in better alignment. And then once you feel like you've done enough on the bottom of your feet, just going to gently come back into our rest position.